That's fine. There is.
Because I'm the
Yes, all those things that.
When they've used something like the Chicago Botanical Garden was.
I know, he's showing me up. He's a little longer. I'm trying to get him.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We got a pretty full house here tonight, and I think everybody's here, or most of the people are here because Russell Davenport. So it's an exciting meeting. We're happy to recognize Russell for all his hard work, and thanks everybody for joining us, especially the fire department came out in full force. And I see our old Public Works Director, Mike, in the background. Thank you for coming on back to the Village Hall. We appreciate that. So, as always, tonight's meeting is going to be streamed live on YouTube and will also be available on Facebook and the Village's website. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Clerk Saladino to call the roll.
Trustee Augustine.
Here.
Trustee Gale.
here.
Trustee Katenik.
Here.
Trustee McGee. Here. Trustee O'Brien.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
President Kugler.
Here. And tonight, Dejana Davenport is going to help Russell with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if they could both come up to the podium and lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, that'd be great. To the podium. The podium would be best, yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Davenport. We appreciate it. Russell, sorry for making you stand up. Sit down. You're going to have to stand up again so that we can recognize you. So it is my absolute honor to lead the board in recognizing Russell Davenport for his 35 years of service with Grange Public Works. Russell began his career with the Public Works as a laborer on April 18th of 1988. His position was reclassified as general utility worker in 1990. Russell was promoted to crew leader in 1993, foreman in 2000, and assistant director of Public Works in 2021. At each level, he has demonstrated a willingness to take on new responsibilities and has continued to learn and work outside of his comfort zone. It's truly commendable, all of his efforts and experiences, and he's been fantastic. Over the past 35 years, much has changed. The tools and technology are different. People have come and gone, but what hasn't changed are the characteristics embodied by Russell that really make him a truly special employee. His commitment, adaptability, attitude, and work ethic transcend the years and have had a tangible impact on what makes this village so special. His fingerprints can be found in many details associated with maintaining our complex infrastructure of streets, water, sewer, streetlights, and buildings. And the things we can easily take for granted, such as daily trash service, mowing the grass, trimming the trees, or plowing snow. Russell's instrumental in the flawless execution of many community events, such as the Pep Parade, the Christmas Walk, that are always enjoyed by our residents and so many visitors to our village. Russell truly cares about passing down his knowledge to leave a legacy of operational excellence, ensuring the LaGrange way, and a high expectation is carried on for how we steward the responsibilities entrusted. He has steadily and reliably served our community day and night, weekdays and weekends, holiday or workday, in rain, shine, and snow. He's the ultimate example of a civil servant, committing to a lifetime of effort to ensure the needs of the larger community supersede his own. Russell, his wife, Dejana, and their beautiful children, Anthony, Ariel, Ashley, Krista, and Chanel, have all been born and spend a lot of time in LaGrange, and they have our sincerest appreciation for their sacrifices over the years. And that really is, as Mrs. Davenport shaking her head, she knows it's a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, a lot of having to put off dinner plans and things like that because the needs of the village Russell put first. And that's, we appreciate it. And we know it's a sacrifice for the family. So the kids are watching at home. We do appreciate the sacrifice that you made. So thank you. And obviously, I know Russell appreciates it and knows that he could not have accomplished all he's done without their commitment. After all these years, we continue listing accomplishments all night, but we could continue all night, but we need to stop somewhere. So every person in this room likely has a story they could share about a time Russell offered them help and assistance or offered a smile and laughter that made their day brighter. A legacy in the making, well-earned, well-deserved. So please join me in recognizing Russell for 35 years of dedicated service to the village of LaGrange. Russell, come up to the podium, but you're going to have to stand there for a minute because I'm going to ask if any of the trustees want to say anything, and then we'll let you talk. So we'll start on the right. Anybody? Beth, Trustee Augustine, please.
Thank you, President Kukler. I'm going to make this a little shorter than I originally wrote. Because
We got time.
okay, great, awesome. All right, great. Well, first of all, Russell, congratulations on this milestone. It's a rarity these days to stay at one job for this long, especially one that requires such physicality and willingness to put your personal plans on hold when you get called in after work on your day off for any number of reasons, from finding the source of a burst pipe somewhere under a stretch of busy road on a 100-degree day to being called in at 10 p.m. when it's 5 below zero. Snow plow our roads all night long during a snowstorm. But that's part of your job, and you do it well. Russell, you grew up here, you raised your family here, your kids, till your kids were off to college, and you still work here. You know where everything is and how everything works, from chainsaws to our giant front loaders. You learned it here, and then you proceeded to teach decades of coworkers how to do the same. Your institutional knowledge is absolutely invaluable. On top of that, you've got, simply put, a winning personality. That it factor, you connect quickly with people you encounter. You listen very well to what their concerns are, because it's always something. And then you proceed to make them feel heard while at the same time taking care of the issue. You have been an example employee all this time. Well, I mean, except for that one time that you thought you might be in trouble. Remember that? Back in 2009?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't recall, but
Well, see, it was it all. Just you should give the context here. This is where it goes a little long, but it all started in 1990.
Let me see.
When many of you know, some of you don't, that Russell was on the Oprah Winfrey Show for a fashion makeover. His wife surprised him with that, and this was so they took him in to the show, and he's on stage in his public works uniform, and they show the before, and then he comes out in the after, and it's bad even for the 90s. It's funny, and you can get this all online, folks. So that's 2009, and I didn't know Russell then. So then fast forward to 2009. So that happened in that was in the 90s. And then in 2009,
tell them where you worked at.
Well, I worked at the Oprah Show then, not the first time, but this time. But I didn't know you. And but I remember the show very vividly because it was a lot of fun. Russell was invited back, and again, this time didn't know. He was invited back. His wife just said, "Can you drop us off at the show or drop me off at the show?" And I think she talked him in. "Oh, we have an extra ticket. You can't not come." He's like, "I'm working. I don't have the day off. I need to go back to work." And she just sit down. So lo and behold, the show starts, and then Oprah says, "Raise your hand. Is Russell Davenport in the audience?" And the camera cuts to Russell, who is absolutely shocked and flabbergasted. And she said, "Russell, come on up here." So she invites Russell up to the stage, and this is how they describe the show. Oprah invited Russell back to the show to rectify the, quote, pitiful, pathetic makeover from 1990. And her team, who had become one of the best in the biz when it came to makeovers, finally gave him the sharp look he deserved. So the problem was, though, Russell's walking up to the stage, again in his uniform, because he's supposed to be at work. And he's whispering a little bit off mic, but you can hear it. He said, I don't have the day off. He goes, I'm supposed to be at work. I might need to take the shirt off. But she gets him to come up, Oprah gets him to come up on stage, and she's standing next to him with her arm around him. And then for almost the entire time, Oprah has her hand carefully over the logo, over the patch of his uniform while she's setting this up. And he said, "I'm gonna need a new job." So then they cut away, they recap his before and after in 1990, and then while that's happening, he's backstage getting dressed. And he comes out looking great, looking sharp, styled by none other this time than Tim Gunn, in a beautiful suit. And that kind of made up for a lot. And Russell clearly did not need to find a new job because he's still here. So it all worked out. No one got too mad, and it made him kind of famous around here. Years later, six years later, I moved to Grange, and I recognized Russell right here next to the building. and introduced myself, and we connected and bonded over this. And he's been a superstar in my book ever since. So Russell, keep up the exceptional work, and please, please, never leave.
All right. I'll pay you later for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Trustee Kotinik.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. Well, Russell, mine is going to be a little more brief because I think a lot of what's going to be said has been said or will be said. But you know, my first inclination is obviously to thank you for your years of service. These meetings aren't really popular, and I know when someone's well liked and popular because you look at the audience, and a lot of people took time out of their evening to come wish you well. So to me, that's a fantastic sign. Obviously, your work record speaks for itself. Over 35 years, I've had some interactions with you. Everything's always been fantastic, but you're one of a kind. What I love about you is your disposition and your calm approach. You always have a smile on your face. You know, always willing to do the right thing, and that's really special in today's environment. And LaGrange is you know, it's an honor to have you part of our team. So I want to thank you for your years of service. I hope there's many more, but I also hope you do what you want to do in the future. But thank you as a resident and as a board member.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kotinik. Trustee Gale.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Russell. As everyone has said, and will continue to say, thank you for your years of service to the village. You were one of the first village employees I ever met when I first moved here. I don't know if you remember, Ryan Gillingham introduced us at, I think it was one of the tree lighting events. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Ryan said you were the reason that we had the tree that had been selected. If I'm not mistaken, you sort of keep that list in your head, right, as you go around town and spot evergreens, and this one might be good in a couple of years. Is that right?
We do, but the last person to pick that tree that you're talking about is the guy sitting back here, Mike Boyvich. I took over after Mike left, but he gave me the list, so now I got it.
Oh, very good, very good. So everybody, if you're, if you have an evergreen, and you see the Public Works Department looking around, that's what they're doing. But
that's it.
Russell, just again, fantastic service. You can't leave, so although Trustee, I'm not going to look at your wife. As Trustee Kotinik said, in all seriousness, good luck in your future, but please stay here for as long as you feel like you can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Trustee McGee.
First, I'd like to just begin by saying congratulations, Russell. There's so much I can say. I've known Russell on a personal level. I grew up with Russell and his sister and his wife, and I know some of the personal struggles that your family has had on anniversaries when something happened and Dejana had prepared something special and there was an emergency in the village and you had to be called away from your family. But it's very few and far between when you find a person who is so dedicated to their job as Russell, not just on the employee level, but just on the level of caring for the residents of LaGrange. I remember one specific incident about 15 years ago, and I was doing programming at the community center, and I have an autistic son who was obsessed with gym shoes that had been thrown up on a telephone wire. And you were in the community doing something, and he asked you if you could get those, he called them Like Mike gym shoes. And you took something out of your truck and you were able to get those shoes off of the wire for Nathan. And that brought the biggest smile to his face. I will never forget it, but it takes a special person to take time out of what they're doing to make the difference in the life of someone so small. And I've seen you do things for other members of our community, and LaGrange is truly blessed to have you as a part of our staff here And we just wish you all the best in whatever you decide to do. But as Lou said, we want to keep you around for many years to come. Sorry, Dejana. Thanks for sharing him with us.
Trustee O'Brien.
Thanks for all you've done. You've done a lot for the village. You've done a lot from me personally and my family. And we appreciate it. You have no idea. So I'm short, so I'm short in stature, but also
That's all right.
we appreciate everything. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Just to be clear, Russell, this is not a retirement party. So this is just, a milestone along your career. And we did want to recognize 35 years. I want to make sure it's not a retirement party. But please share some thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate everybody for coming out for me tonight. I appreciate my friends, my family, all the board members, the crowd that's here right now that I know they not, I know that I had my 35 years of service tonight, and I know other people who's coming for other business, but thank you for being here. And hopefully I have touched you in some kind of way. And I have a couple of things I need to say tonight. So in the 35 years I was here, I went through 6 village presidents to the present. Kukla is the present one. 6 village managers, 7 fire chiefs to the present, 8 police chiefs to the present, numerous of trustees. I can't even count how many trustees. There was probably about 50, 60, but went through all of them. I had 34 pet parades, 34 Christmas walks. It's been good. I mean, I want to personally thank my wife tonight for putting up with the late nights, like you guys said, because she knows she's a sleeper. So by me getting up, waking her up, she's just all over the place. Like, I can't even go back to sleep now, But she say, why you got to go to work? And then I just say, we got to eat. So I say, I got to go to work. So sometimes she didn't understand it, but it was my job to get here and make sure that everything is safe, if it's the roads or if it was I'm going to say a water leak. We usually knock on wood when we say that because something like that might come up. But just trying to take care of everything that's going on in the town and just making sure that everybody is safe at the end of the day. It's so much to talk about, but I don't want to hold you guys too long because I know you guys got business to take care of. But I thank all you guys. I think that, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I thank all you guys just for everything that you do for me. And I think that, hold on, guys. Hello? Okay. That was the police department. They say there's a limb down at 41st and Brainerd Avenue, and we all know who lives close to 41st and Brainerd, so we need to go take care of the limb. But before we leave, I just want to thank all you guys so much for having me. I appreciate all you guys. I think that LaGrange is a nice place to work and a nice place to be. I think that the residents here are just wonderful, and I think that the board is wonderful. I think that you guys, given the resources, that you guys will help make this a better place to live. I know that all you guys are working hard. I thank you guys for just doing all the hard work behind the scenes. It's a lot that goes on in this village. A lot of people don't see, but I think that it's a lot of work, and there's still a lot of work to do, but I think If we all put our heads together and work together, and that, I'm talking about the residents too, we all got to work together, that we can get this job done and we can move forward in life. So let's just keep loving one another and keep this place going. And thank you guys again so much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I just wanted to reach out and thank the business associations too. Thanks, Nancy, all the hard work that we do together to get all these events going, and the Christmas walk and all that. It's about ready to start up again, but it's been good working with you. I'll be here for a little while longer, so we'll just keep it up. That's it.
We'll hold you to that, Russell. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get out of here. We're not going to stay for the whole meeting. We're going to get out of here if you guys
You
don't
go
mind.
have fun.
Thank you,
You
guys.
deserve it.
Appreciate you.
All right. And one of the things that Public Works makes sure is functioning and operational and able to be available for our residents is the farmers market. And the 2023 farmers market will begin on Thursday, May 11th and continue through October 26th. The market will take place on Thursdays on Harris Avenue, same spot on Harris Avenue between LaGrange Road and 6th Avenue from 7 to 1 p.m. It's an open-air market featuring fresh food produced by family farmers hailing from Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Indiana. More information regarding the farmers market is available at lagrangeevents.com or on the LGBA's website. And again, keeping with the theme of Public Works, Public Works just doesn't cut down trees, they also plant trees. And on Friday, April 28th, in observance of Arbor Day, an Autumn Brilliance Silverberry will be planted at St. John's Lutheran Elementary School at 10 a.m. with the 5th grade class. The planting of the tree is an annual tradition. Milo often leads us in a song, and it serves to represent the village's dedication to the value of trees and maintaining a healthy tree canopy. You'll really, if you come and join us, you'll hear about our urban forest that we have here in LaGrange. In furtherance of the village's efforts in maintaining its canopy, the spring tree planting will take place, more tree planting will take place today and tomorrow. We expect to be planting over 77 trees this week. Moving on, spring cleanup was officially today for the residents north of 47th. A lot of people put out things over the weekend. A lot of the things that people put out were picked up, reused, repurposed, and it's a great event that keeps a lot of items, one, out of people's house, and secondly, out of landfills. So we think it's a great thing. It will continue on Thursday, the regular garbage pickup for residents south of 47th. And under this program, Flood Brothers will collect, or did collect, an unlimited amount of household refuse. The participation required affixing a special cleanup day sticker or 2 regular refuse stickers. Again, in the past it was 3, but Flood Brothers agreed to reduce that to 2 refuse stickers. And before I give up the microphone, I again want to remind everyone, it's springtime. Our children are out as pedestrians, as bike riders. A lot of people are out walking around. when you're driving, please be as careful as absolutely possible. Please follow the rules of the road. Most of the driving really is residents. And so when we hear complaints about people driving too fast, rolling through stop signs, not giving pedestrians enough room, it's really neighbors complaining about neighbors, and we can do better. I know our police department has been out there enforcing it, and they'll continue to do that. But really what we need are just the residents and our visitors being as careful as possible. So with that, thank you. President Knight, is there manager Knight, is there a manager's report?
Sure is. Thank you, President Kukler. Online business license and registration renewals have launched through the OpenGov software platform. To aid in using the system, staff has developed a step-by-step tutorial and is hosting help desk hours over the next couple of weeks, during which time business owners can get hands-on assistance in completing their renewal. This exciting development will improve the experience of businesses and our staff, and I wanted to thank our staff that helped make it possible. This week, intersections within the Central Business District have had restriping along the pedestrian crosswalks. We've also had some repair work done on the paver system on Calendar. This important work is helpful in improving experiences of downtown pedestrian experience, as well as ensuring safety of pedestrians that are downtown. This work is expected to be completed within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Lastly, Edgewood Avenue repaving is nearing completion, with concrete and remaining restoration work expected to be completed early this week. Contractor has performed well, and final punch list, restoration, striping, and signage will continue into May. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Manager Knight. I appreciate that. At this time, I'd ask Clerk Saladino to read the items on the consent portion, of the agenda, followed by the items on the current business.
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they already have been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to the current business for separate consideration. Item A, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022-23 operating and capital improvement budget. Item B, refuse hauler application, SBC Waste Solutions, Inc. Item C, an ordinance renewing restaurant outdoor seating and other temporary uses. Item D, minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees regular meeting, Monday, April 10th, 2023. Item E, Falloon and Kinney invoices 230327 and 230410. And item F, consolidated voucher 230424. Current business agenda items include consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, a resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-24 operating and capital improvements budget. Item B, a resolution approving a contract with Suburban General Construction, Inc. for the Brainerd Avenue water main improvements. Item C, engineering services agreement, task order construction management, Brainerd water main improvement project. Item D, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the LaGrange Code of Ordinances regarding purchases and contracts under a certain amount. Item E, an ordinance amending various sections of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of LaGrange regarding the village fee and fine schedules and adopting the village fee and fine schedules. And item F, an ordinance amending Section 37.31 of the LaGrange Code of Ordinances regarding emergency ambulance service fees and establishing emergency ambulance mileage fees.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. At this time, I'd ask if there's any public comments regarding agenda items. Seeing none, I would ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
And a second. Thank you, Trustee Kotinik and Trustee Gale. And at this time, I'd allow the trustees to make their statements.
President Kluge, thank you. As previously stated, I will recuse myself from voting on any agenda items related to our village prosecutor.
Thank you.
President Kukler, I'm going to recuse myself from voting tonight on the Falloon and Kenny invoices that are on the agenda and those in the consolidated voucher. I had a minor traffic accident in the village, and the Falloon and Kenny provided the village services related to that traffic incident, so therefore I will not be voting on those items tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. With that, any other comments, questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Saladino to do a roll call vote.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee McGee. Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Kotinik.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
And Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. We have several items under our current business, and I think we're going to keep Trustee Gale busy for a little bit. Item A under current business is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-2024 operating and capital improvements budget. I'd like to invite Trustee Gale to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. Here I am thinking everybody came for this, but it turns out it was Russell. Oh well. Thanks again, Mr. President. So I'll be introducing our budget, but there are several other finance-related matters that we're going to be addressing as outlined in the budget, or outlined in the agenda, excuse me. So the village's annual operating and capital improvements budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2023 is a key document as it sets forth our spending priorities and revenue sources over the next 5 years. Numerous budget discussions were held over the past 6 months to develop this final budget document and the 5-year financial plan. The budget process began in November 2022 with a pre-budget development workshop that included pension funding and consideration of the preliminary property tax levy. Adoption of the final 2022 property tax levy took place in December, and the process continued with workshops to discuss capital projects in February and operating budgets in March. Public hearing was held on April 10th, 2 weeks ago, to provide the public with an opportunity to comment on the budget document. The final fiscal year 2023-24 budget reinforces our village's commitment to prudent financial stewardship and maintains the village's stable financial position, which is the result of years of financial discipline as the village, by the village board and staff. In total, the village is proposing a $40 million operating and capital improvement budget for fiscal year 23-24. The various operating funds and department budgets were discussed in detail at the budget workshop held on March 11th, 2023. The general fund, which includes the village's main operating budget, reflects an estimated surplus of $898,000 at fiscal year end, which would be April 30th of 2024. Based upon the revenue and expenditure projections appearing in the village's 5-year operating and capital budget plan, the general fund reserve balance is projected to be 73.9% at the end of fiscal year 27-28, which falls within the targeted reserve range of 50% to 75% of our annual operating expenditures. The revenues accumulated in excess of fund balances targets are included as transfers into the capital fund to finance ongoing capital infrastructure needs. So the general operating revenue for fiscal year 23-24 include increases in sales tax receipts related to online sales, rising interest rate returns, the previously approved 2022 property tax levy, and decreasing pension levies. The budget also incorporates an overall decrease of 15% in state shared revenues due to the impact of a possible recession on individual and corporate income tax. Reflected within the document is the village's continued effort to build on and refine its service model in order to best serve the community. This year, those efforts have included restructuring within the community development and administrative departments, adding a human resource manager position, and redefining the building official position as a building and inspector services manager. The police department also continues to further efforts in developing its leadership team with recent promotions, trainings, and accreditation through the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, ILEAP. The fire department recently reestablished the position of captain and is working towards maintaining important life safety equipment. Refinements to maintenance and construction programs within the Department of Public Works will serve to derive the highest value from investments of village funds. In addition to full staffing across all operating departments, the general fund also includes one-time expenditures of $375,000 for interior remodeling and equipment at all village facilities. Capital improvements continue to remain a strategic priority for the village board, as well as the focus of feedback from concerned residents. As part of the village's commitment to address aging infrastructure, the budget includes $7.2 million of pay-as-you-go capital expenditures scheduled for next year. I want to repeat that. We have $7.2 million of pay-as-you-go capital expenditures scheduled for next year. So major projects include reconstruction and water main replacement on Brainerd Avenue from 47th Street to Brewster, and the reconstruction of Shawmut Avenue from Hemen to the Indiana Harbor Belt crossing. These roadway construction costs for both projects are primarily funded 70% by federal surface transportation grants, which helps maximize the value of village investments. Additional projects include sewer lining and engineering and construction costs related to the 50th storm sewer project. Due to the recent increase in general fund operating revenues that we're getting, the village's proposed budget for our share of funding and infrastructure has been increased from $1 million to $2.5 million annually. So that's part of that $7.2 million. The increased transfer reflects the village's continued emphasis on improving the village's aging infrastructure by providing additional funding for street reconstruction and sewer improvement projects. The replacement of the village's aging water and sewer infrastructure also remains an important long-term goal. Based upon the recently completed water and sewer rate study, a 10% increase in water and sewer rates is required in order to continue to fund utility operations, water main replacement, and sewer lining projects. Revenues generated by the water rate increase will also support bond funding for future water main projects. Although not significantly impacting village-wide revenues, the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively affected commuter parking revenues over the past 3 years. The recently completed parking study explored options and opportunities related to evolving changes in parking dynamics and behavior. The study proposed several recommendations to be implemented during the upcoming fiscal year, including rate increases for commuter and residential parking decals and an increase in parking fines. These increases are necessary to fund rising operation costs and license plate recognition software and equipment, which will allow for enhanced enforcement efforts in order to better manage the current parking inventory. Rates were originally scheduled to increase in fiscal year 2021. However, those increases were postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in summary, the board has received this summary of revenue and expenditure adjustments, which reconciles the preliminary 23-24 budget to the final 23-24 budget. First adjustment reflects an increase in health insurance expenditures from a final premium renewal of 8.6%, which impacts all village operating departments and enterprise funds. The additional cost from this renewal, which is 3.6% above budget, has been incorporated into our final budget. The other adjustment is to include the cost of outfitting a second police enforcement vehicle with license plate recognition cameras and equipment. If the board chooses to revise the budget, in the future, a budget amendment can be approved during the fiscal year. The proposed budget responsibly accounts for investments in community priorities and maintains the vitality of the village while being ever mindful of keeping costs down. We will continue to deliver high-quality village services and continue to advance the village board's strategic priorities of economic development, public safety, and capital improvements. So we have before us the resolution approving the budget for fiscal year 23-24. The subsequent budgets are presented for information purposes only. The proposed resolution will serve to adopt fiscal year 23-24 budget, which begins May 1, 2023. So at this time, I move for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023-24 operating and capital improvement budget.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, it's been a document we've obviously discussed several times in the meetings going back quite some time, and then most recently. So I think we can all agree that it's a sound budget and it's a good budget for our residents. So with that, I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
And Trustee Gale.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Next up is B, a resolution approving a contract with Suburban General Construction for the Brainerd Avenue water main improvements, and that's going to be referred to Trustee O'Brien.
Thank you, President Kukler. This item is in regards to water main improvements on Brainerd Avenue from 47th Street to just north of Ogden Avenue. The water main is approximately 100 years old and has reached the end of its useful life. Suburban General Incorporated was the only bidder submitting a complete proposal, and award of this contract is recommended by the village's consultant engineer, Baxter and Woodman. At this time, I'd like to ask Director of Public Works Colby to provide some additional background information.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. The FY23-24 budget includes funding for the replacement of the water main along Brainerd Avenue between 47th and Ogden Avenue. This is a precursor project to improve the below-grade infrastructure prior to a planned federally funded resurfacing project along Brainerd Avenue expected in the spring of 2024 within the same limits. Baxter and Woodman prepared a design for this improvement project, and the specification bid package was advertised in accordance with the village's procurement procedures. Multiple firms received bid packages and had the opportunity to ask questions at a pre-bid conference. Only 2 bidders submitted proposals. One of the bidded proposals omitted pricing on some items, and with a public bid opening of sealed bids, there's no way to accept corrected bids for omissions. Therefore, the incomplete bid was excluded. The low bidder's construction cost is approximately 30% higher than budgeted. Baxter and Woodman and staff have analyzed the bid and overages and recommend awarding the contract. The higher than anticipated bid cost is attributed to the project's complexity associated with working on Brainerd Avenue with greater traffic density and scheduling and phasing requirements imposed to minimize as much as possible the impact on local schools and the community, as well as the technical complexity associated with coordinating borings under the BNSF railroad crossing. Contractors likely estimated a slower rate of installation, which drove up costs compared to past water main projects, unit pricing used for estimating. In addition, costs for commodities such as gate valves, vault valves, catch basins, and other components are affected by general market inflationary forces, and costs were higher than estimated. There's a high demand for plumbing specialty trades at the moment, resulting in greater labor costs than we've previously received. I've noted in budget formulation that an escalating construction cost environment is likely in the near term. Baxter and Woodman has advised that rebidding the project would not expect to return to more favorable pricing and would have the potential for higher bids and be submitted based upon pricing and estimates they're seeing on other similar sized projects and project types. Urban General has successfully performed similar work for the village in the past, including Blackstone and Ashland Water Main project as recently as 2019. Adequate funding exists in the general fund reserves to cover additional expense. Staff recommends approval of the proposed resolution approving a contract with Suburban General Construction Incorporated for the Brainerd Avenue Water Main Improvement Project. This time, we'd happy to address any questions or clarifications the board may have on this recommendation. Thank you.
Director Colby, can you just tell us when we're expected to start the work and how long it's going to take? And
Absolutely.
I've had some neighbors ask about the pink marks on the trees on Brainerd.
Yep. So the work's expected to start shortly after the pep parade is our targeted period, so June 5th, roughly that first week. So we're hoping to award this evening and then do a pre-construction bid and meeting here in the next couple weeks. The work is sequenced in phases where we have the work adjacent to the school happening first and the work that's associated with the railroad happening at that same time to minimize, again, the impacts in the community, particularly for Grange High School, as well as other schools and other folks that use that road for commuting. The overall projects expect to be completed before Thanksgiving timeframe. So we have 3 phases from north to south, basically from Ogden down to 47th Street.
And will cars be able to go down Brainerd as this is going, and then as a commuter, will commuters be able to walk across the railroad tracks while this is going on?
Correct. So the commuter rail should remain open for pedestrian traffic. The railroad will have to be closed for vehicle traffic at periods during the boring. In general, the work will remain open along Brainerd Avenue. There will be isolated areas of where work's going to have to be temporarily on individual blocks detoured, but majority of the water main construction is planned within the parking lane and on the east side of the road, so there should be availability to keep at least one directional traffic, if not 2, along the course of the project. There will be times where there's impactful intersections, but we're going to try to minimize that as much as possible.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. Did we have a motion on that, or do we need a motion? Did you motion, Trustee O'Brien? I'm not sure.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item B on the agenda.
A second.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Trustee McGee, again, I think we've already called for discussion. So with that, I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. But we're going to keep with Trustee O'Brien, and we're going to go with Engineering Service Agreement, Task Order, Construction Management, Brainerd Water Main Improvement. Was that what we just, no? Okay. I'm sure you'll explain it.
Thank you, President Kukler. This item is in regards to an engineering agreement for construction oversight by Baxter and Woodman during the water main improvement project on Brainerd Avenue, as previously discussed. I'd like to ask Director of Public Works Colby to provide some additional background information.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. So we have two items. One is the construction contract, the other being the engineering service agreement with Baxter and Woodman. So the replacement of the water main along Brainerd Avenue between 47th and Ogden requires construction engineering services to oversee the replacement of the water main. Included in this task order is assistance in meeting the requirements of the Lead Service Line Replacement Act and Notification Act. Facilitating the water line replacement and cost share component of this project is a notable portion of the work, as it involves coordination with the private service line improvement. A scope of service appears on page 3 of the attached task order agreement, which includes work associated with initiating the project, construction administration, design, project management assistance, field observation, and project closeout. Staff recommends approval of the proposed task order number 273 with Baxter and Woodman for the Brainerd Avenue Water Main Improvement Construction Services.
Thank you, Director Colby. And at this time, can I have a motion and a second to approve Engineering Service Agreement, Task Order under Construction Management, Brainerd Water Main Improvement Project?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item C, agreement task order number 273, Brainerd Avenue Water Main Improvements Construction Services.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Thank you, Trustee McGee. Any discussion on the engineering agreement? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Moving back to Trustee Gale for item D, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Grange Code of Ordinances regarding purchases and contracts.
Thank you, Mr. President. So our village regularly procures goods and services in the conduct of its work. Expenditures are accounted for in approved fiscal year budgets, with the exception of the occasional and infrequent unanticipated expenditure. To guide procurement practices, the village follows requirements established in its purchasing manual. The purchasing manual stipulates that all purchases over $2,000 require issuance of a purchase order. A request for issuing the purchase order must be filled out and accompanied by 3 quotes. The request is often routed to either the village manager, assistant village manager, or finance director for review and approval. The approved purchase order is then returned to the requester, who in turn provides it to the vendor to process. Section 3244, purchases and contracts of certain amount of our village code, was last amended in 2007. So in that 16 years that has elapsed, the goods and services have increased by approximately 150%. Maintaining purchasing authorities at that level for this period of time has resulted in the gradual expansion of administrative tasks associated with these purchases, large majority of which are routine and included in the approved budget. Overall, this has had the effect of increasing the cost of purchase processing while diminishing the value. Staff, in consultation with the village attorney, have identified the updating of purchasing authorities as an opportunity to better align resources dedicated to purchase processing, while at the same time preserving appropriate oversight and enhancing the village's ability to secure competitive pricing. The following is a proposed update to our purchasing authority. There is a table in our packet for people's review, which has the purchase amount, current approval, and then the proposed changes. Under the proposed update, purchases below $10,000 can be approved by department directors, who will bear the responsibility of ensuring that competitive pricing is obtained. Purchases between that $10,000 and $25,000 amount would require village manager approval, 3 competitive quotes, and the issuance of a purchase order. A review of expenditures occurring in March of this year. Of the 24 checks over $2,000, only 14 would continue to require a purchase order under the proposed purchase authorities, reducing the administrative task of this function by about over 40%. Purchases of $25,000 or more will require the competitive bidding process, which includes formal solicitation of proposals and an award recommendation made to the village board for consideration. Unless formally waived by the village board, competitive bidding would be required of all purchases over $25,000. Competitive bidding would remain an option for purchases below $25,000 and would be applied in instances where cost savings were anticipated. So I move for the approval of these changes to the ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Grange Code of Ordinances regarding purchases and contracts under a certain amount.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Thank you, Trustee Kutinek. Any discussion on this? Trustee Peterson.
I just want to say that I am in full agreement on this, and having worked with the department managers in the budget, and I know we just completed the final budget, I am very confident that the budget managers will be able to conduct their business and their purchasing in the most optimal manner for the village of LaGrange, and I'm really glad to see this.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. Seeing no other comments, I would ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Kutinek.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Moving on to E, an ordinance amending various sections of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of LaGrange regarding the village fee and fine schedules and adopting the village fee and fine schedules. That's going back to Trustee Gale.
Thank you, Mr. President. The village's fiscal year 23-24 operating and capital improvement budget includes updates to various fines, fees, and rates intended to support our delivery of high-quality services. Consistent with the recommendations in the recently done parking study, parking fines, commuter decal rates, and residential decal rates are scheduled to increase in fiscal year 23-24. These changes will serve to more efficiently fund parking lot maintenance and support improved enforcement efforts associated with parking management. The parking fees are scheduled to increase from $35 to $40 per violation, except for the handicap parking fines, which are regulated by state law. Monthly consumer and residential decal parking rates are scheduled to increase by $5, which is consistent with the parking study recommendation. Parking fees and decal rates were last increased in May of 2013. In support of the village efforts in addressing aging water and sewer infrastructure, and based upon consultant recommendations in the recently completed water and sewer rate study, a 10% increase in rate and water sewer rates is included. Periodically, the village reviews adopting permit and licensing fee structures to ensure that they are sufficiently offset service delivery expenses and in keeping with industry best practices. The fiscal year 23-24 budget reflects changes to a variety of building permit fees, including the incorporation of flat fee structures that improve predictability and efficiency in our process. The fees were last evaluated in 2014, so almost 10 years ago. Similarly, the business license fee structure is proposed for streamlining to reduce the number of business categories and associated fees. Business license fees were last amended in 2008. As businesses are currently in the process of renewing their licenses, staff has proposed making the business license fee changes effective January 1st of 2024. These fines, fees, and rates are provided for in the Village Code of Ordinances. Prior practices included incorporating these amounts in the text of the Code of Ordinances rather than a fee schedule. More recent practices included adopting amended fees, fines, and rates in a fee schedule. The text of Code of Ordinances then references the schedule rather than including the amount directly in the text of the code. The attached ordinance proposes to amend the Code of Ordinance to incorporate all the proposed changes. Adopting it in this manner will build upon more recent practices of using schedules, allowed for improved referencing of this information, and mirror the structure of the upcoming recodification and conversion of the Code of Ordinances into the Village Code. Updated amounts would be effective on May 1st of this year, with the exception of business license fees with the exception of those business license fees. So I move for approval of the proposed ordinance, amending the Code of Ordinances and adopting an updated fee schedule and fine schedule.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Gale, and thank you for the second, Trustee McGee. Any questions, comments on this? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. I promise this is the last time tonight that we'll be going to back to Trustee Gale. But for F, an ordinance amending Section 37.31 of the Grange Code of Ordinances regarding emergency ambulance service fees and establishing an emergency ambulance mileage fees. And that has been referred to Trustee Gale.
Thank you one last time, Mr. President. So the village began billing for emergency ambulance services in 2004 to offset the cost of providing these services. The current fees established in 2017 are $1,000 per ambulance call plus mileage. In October 2019, the village entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Health and Human Services as part of the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program. Through this program, Medicaid reimburses municipalities a portion of the actual cost of the transport of Medicaid patients. The GEMT program requires setting a specific rate for the cost of emergency ambulance transport of Medicaid patients, which is based on a formula developed by Medicaid and the Illinois Department of Health and Human Services, or maybe that's the federal department. The formula is structured to determine the actual total cost per transport, and each year the village is required to complete the calculation to determine the cost. The calculated rate is then used in the billing for the transportation of Medicaid patients in the following calendar year. These fees are calculated by the GEMT formula, more accurately represent the total cost of the service provided. To provide parity between patients covered by private insurance and Medicaid and use a nationally recognized formula for ambulance billing, staff recommends use of the GEMT rate for all ambulance billing. Use of this rate consistently, regardless of the patient's form of coverage, serves to equitably recover a portion of the costs incurred to provide this service. Non-residents will be billed for any charges that remain after final payment has been received from all of that insurance providers, unless provided by insurer agreements or state statute. The rates have been included in the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget, and with approval will become effective on May 1st, 2023. So with that, I recommend approval of the ordinance amending Section 3731 of the Village of LaGrange Code of Ordinances regarding emergency ambulance service fees and establishing emergency ambulance mileage fees.
And just to be clear, you're recommending and moving?
I am recommending and moving. I'm moving for approval of the ordinance.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustees. With that, any questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Trustee Gale. Thank you, Trustee O'Brien, for your hard work on presenting those. We appreciate it. At this time, I would invite anybody to come forward that would like to comment on matters not on tonight's agenda. Is the microphone on? It doesn't, may not be.
Okay.
Now they can
Hi,
hear you.
everybody. Now you can hear me. I'm Becky Lorenzen from LaGrange, and I wanted to give an update on the Community Mosaic Project, which was inspired by my friend Nancy Bramson. And so I let you know that we were starting this project several months ago. We have reached our fundraising goals, so thank you to those who did donate. We still are, however, accepting contributions. If you want to be part of the project, the additional contributions will go towards enhancing the project or other art projects that we will be doing in the light of community building. So a couple exciting things have happened.
Well, first, could you just tell us, if for the people at home, if they'd like to contribute, how they should go about doing that?
Sure. So you can go to communitydiversity.org/mosaic project, and there's a place where you can contribute there. And there's also information, if you're sending us a large check, you can send it to our P.O. box, because then we don't get the percentage taken out. Anyway.
Perfect.
For those of you who weren't around, the project is to create a mosaic on the community center in the historically, culturally rich east side of LaGrange, which has historically been primarily African American. And so we've been working with the Park District, and they've approved the concept. We're going to be giving the mosaic panels to the Park District as a gift. And we signed our contract with Green Star, who is working with us. Green Star's done murals all over the city of Chicago, beautiful work. You can see more information on our website. And we had our first design meeting at the community center last week, which was attended by 25 to 30 people, about half with roots in the East Side neighborhood. So it was really wonderful, lots of great ideas. Our next step is to have a design review and approval meeting next Thursday. And we didn't invite everybody because we're looking for representative people so that we can bring people together in the community that normally wouldn't come together. And we figured the whole 16,000 people of LaGrange would be a little bit of overkill. So if you didn't get an invitation, there'll be opportunities later on. Assuming we can get agreement to the design, the Park District needs to approve it on their meeting on May 8th. And assuming that happens, then we'll be able, the Green Star goes away and prepares the panels. There's going to be 8 panels on the east side of the building. And in mid-August through mid-September, there'll be lots of opportunities for people in the village to come together and lay the tiles and create the panels. Green Star will then mount them, and we'll have some sort of a celebration at the end of September or in October. So just wanted to update you and let you know, watch for further information. Once we have more details on the design, on the installation workshops, we will let you know. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, ladies, for your hard work on this project and all you do in LaGrange. It's much appreciated.
My name is Veronica Brock. I'm a citizen of LaGrange Bend for 30 years. I have a concern. It has to do with these new mini electric bikes. They're not even as high as my hip. I stand 5'9". They're not that high. They're easily and readily available online from many, many retailers, from Walmart to Amazon and everybody in between. I looked up the rules of the road for cyclists, and the only one glaring one that just like really snapped out at me is low-speed electric or gas bicycles must have a motor of less than 1 horsepower and must be operated by a person who is at least 16. Well, the posse that's running around my neighborhood is probably 5 to 6 to 7 years old. No adults, no helmets. I know there's a no helmet law in Illinois, but if that were my kid, I got to tell you, I would not want them up in the now more expensive ambulance. And you're asking for people to slow down. These kids are so small that you can't see them. I mean, even with our little sensors and our backup lights and all of that kind of stuff. And they're not following the rules of the road. And there doesn't seem to be any parental involvement. They ran again past me today. I have called and alerted the police to this. They're still out there doing it. Somebody is going to get killed, if not injured. I mean, there are little kids on these things. And they're portable. You can open up your SUV, sling it in the back, take it to your neighbors, and have the kids all, increase in numbers. And the mini bikes are going to increase, and they're going to be zooming around, and they're not following the rules of road, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. So I would really appreciate some kind of effort on this by our community, because if we want the kids to be responsible, us as parents have got to show them how to be responsible. So that's it. I have pictures of them if you'd like to see them. They come in neon pink and hot blue and a few other colors. And they start at $198. So they're not expensive. So my guess is we're going to see a lot more of them come the summer months. So
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. I just don't know how to get anybody to like hit the brick wall and say, this is not good.
Not literally, but figuratively hit the brick wall. But in all seriousness, we would obviously encourage all riders of all ages to wear helmets. It is important. It does save lives. More importantly, it does keep you out of the Rehab Institute, where you may end up if you're not wearing a helmet. We would encourage all parents to talk with your kids. We've talked at the board level a lot to the audience about drivers being careful. And it's really an equal responsibility. The people walking of all ages or riding their bikes need to also be careful, need to follow common sense rules of the road and things of that nature. So I do appreciate you bringing it to our attention, and it gives us a good opportunity to remind parents as well as children that safety is really important.
They're electric, they need to be 60. That's follow rules.
Right. It's hard for the people at home to hear you when you yell, but I think you said that if it's electric, they need to follow the rules of the road.
They need to be 16.
You got to go to the microphone if you're going to talk, because I'm having trouble hearing you.
If you're going to ride an electric bike, according to the Office of the Secretary of State, low-speed electric or gas bicycles must have a motor of less than 1 horsepower and must be operated by a person who is at least age 16.
I think you were saying that the age limit isn't necessarily been followed.
That's like the one thing that I can pull. We don't have a helmet law, so you can't crank on the helmets, but you can crank on the age.
Thank you. So you need to be 16 to ride these electric bikes, and we'd ask that be followed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Kukler and trustees. Thank you for your time. I'll be brief. I have 3 things I would like to talk about.
You just have to introduce yourself first.
Brian Opid from 109 8th Avenue here in LaGrange.
Thank you.
The first is thank you for the opening statement about traffic and being aware of children on the streets. That is something that with last week's wonderful weather, we hit 80s. I was in the neighborhood with some of my neighbors, and we were talking about the increased speeds that we often see on Bluff Avenue. This is an issue that the village has known about for a long time. And I actually wanted to thank the police department. They usually have an officer posted on Elm, and one of my neighbors had actually said they actually pulled somebody over that was going too fast. So thank you for that enforcement, and I hope that will continue on Bluff Avenue. My second point of the evening, I wanted to comment on village ordinances. It's also come to my attention trying to learn more about them and talking to my neighbors about their challenges in understanding the ordinances. They're not available online as far as I know. It would be wonderful if at some point we can make those available so that residents can find them easily. I was also told there's a copy at the library, but I understand that's a little bit outdated. So anything you could do there would be greatly appreciated.
Why don't we stop you right there and see what's our status on online ordinances? I think we're moving towards that, right?
Okay. Yes, so we are in the process of codifying the Village Code of Ordinances. We have received the first draft back from MuniCode, our codifier, of they've taken all of the ordinances that have been approved since the last time the code was codified and put them all together. We've internally done a review of that 700 and some plus pages and sent those preliminary comments back to MuniCode. Now we go about the process of identifying the provisions that need to be updated and amended and changed before we finalize and present that to the board for approval and then publishing on the website.
And just so the folks at home know, I mean, I know it's an extensive project, much more extensive than I thought. Could you, Director Jones, just tell us a little, I mean, so that people really know how much time staff's put in on this project?
Sure. I mean, just in the preliminary review that each of the department heads did, it was probably, I don't know, 20 hours or so, each of us just reviewing the document in its totality. And that's not including all of the time that our management analyst, Maureen Rush, spent in pulling all of those ordinances together so that MuniCode could make the updates. And there's a lot more yet to go. It is a very large project. It's been a very long time since the full Village Code of Ordinances has been updated and codified. There are portions of the Village Code of Ordinances that are available online. The Building Code, which is Chapter 150, is available on the Village website, as well as the Zoning Code, and I believe our noise ordinance and our liquor licensing and business licensing code sections are also on the Village website.
Thank you. And Brian, we appreciate you bringing that to our attention. The board knew that it was an issue and really a priority of the board to get it codified, and therefore able to be digitized. It's an expensive project that we budgeted for and are moving forward on it. So thanks.
That's wonderful news. And the final point I'd like to raise tonight is something that's near and dear to my heart since 2018 when I brought it to the attention of some boards. I was reading the recent minutes, and I understand we're doing some project work on, or not we, I should say the state, is doing some work together with Indiana Harbor Belt. I believe the state is financing the replacement of a crossing at Cosset Avenue. In 2018, I notified the village and had a conversation with Ryan Gillingham at the time regarding the pedestrian crossing there, and it's very difficult to walk across. Speaking to several of you personally and exchanging emails, I know there's an understanding that it needs some improvements. I would love to be able to see families go across that walking or with a stroller without having to enter the middle of the street. That's a current challenge there on the south side of that crossing. Whether we call that an access issue, an ADA issue, whatever it may be, I think we do need to address it. And I think the fact that IHB will be doing some work there in September, this is the perfect opportunity to try to push for some improvement on that side of the village. It's families going to and from school. My neighbors walking to Gemini, the gymnastics gym. It's people that are going to the rec center. And I think just pushing, and I know many of you have expressed interest in doing that. I know there's some work going on behind the scenes to make that happen, and I truly do appreciate it, and I hope we can make it happen because we all know these types of improvement projects only happen, once, twice in a generation. They don't happen that often. So what we can do to put some elbow grease into it and call our friends to make something happen would be wonderful, and I thank you for the efforts you put in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate you coming out. We know that you're busy with the Park District, and we do appreciate you coming to our meeting. I don't know if Manager Knight or Director Colby want to address that at all. I know you both have been working hard to try to get a walkway built on the south side of Cosset over the IHB tracks.
Correct. Yeah, we did have the opportunity to meet with the maintenance manager from Indiana Harbor Belt Rail on Friday. 2 Fridays ago. Apologies for the date, but they were open to it. They were going to work through their channels to see if it was possible to expand that. There is a full separation on the north sidewalk. There's a carriage walk on the south sidewalk, so the intention would be to widen that improvement. We're still waiting to hear back for confirmation, but they seemed very open to that sort of improvement, as well as putting in some additional infrastructure for future signalization. We had our engineers from Baxford Woodman there about what it would take to look at reconfiguring some of the sidewalk approaches on that south side. So again, this is a lot of behind the scenes work that's still working in the right direction to make that improvement happen.
Thank you, Director Colby. Any other residents with things not on tonight's agenda?
Hi, Laura West, LaGrange. I wanted to check in on an update on the engineering project north of 47th Street, as well as the plan to raise funds for the recommendations that are presented during that engineering project. We heard a lot of work and goals and infrastructure and plans. I didn't hear one thing about flooding north of 47th. Additionally, I think it's a message or concerning or something that I know there's a lot of work done about flooding, but there's no commission on flooding. There's no dedicated group to just solving flooding. We go back to what Russell said, that the residents, the board, the staff all needs to work together. I think we could make a lot of progress. It would send a strong message and help push some things forward that we can control outside of what a courtroom is doing to make progress on flooding throughout the village, especially if we had a dedicated commission. seems to make sense to me and would help some of us sleep at night. So an update on any work north of 47th, and hopefully some additional resources and commitment to solving flooding in LaGrange. That's a goal I think is possible, and we all need to work together to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Wiss, for coming tonight. And you are right, we didn't specifically talk about flooding projects today, which I usually do, so I appreciate the reminder on that. I can say on good news, I had the opportunity to speak with both Congressman Garcia and Congressman Caston. They're both working very hard to get us some money that if we get the grants through the hurdles of Congress, and they both think that that could happen, and we're going to use those grant proceeds for existing sewer televising, and as well as repairing anything that they find in the televising. So that's going on as we speak. The congressmen are working in Washington to secure those funds, and we appreciate their efforts. The litigation, we're still waiting for the judge's ruling. The judge had previously stated that he would rule by March 9th. That got continued to May 9th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So I know that our lawyers and the board is anxiously awaiting that decision, and we are hopeful that it will be received by May 9th. As far as the engineering for the study of north of 47th, I'm not sure if Village Manager Knight or Director Colby can get any more of an update on that. I know that these things take a long time, but if there's any more that you can add than what we've reinforced.
So we issued a task order to Christopher Burke Engineering to study areas outside of the South Basin, which is subject to the 50th Street project. They're still in the initial phases of that, preliminary engineering, information gathering, and modeling. So we do hope that that process is going to help inform future capital and budget developments as discussed. That's really the purpose of that, so that we have a good idea of look at both solutions, near term, midterm, long term, as well as the resourcing needs that are supported or needed to support that.
Thank you. And then regarding the commissions, after the last super major flood, we did as a board and village staff working together discuss the best way to have residents get involved in a commission type setting. At that time, we decided to expand the EQC, Environmental Quality Commission, and power them to look at things that can be done. And that continues to be one of their primary charges. So that's the commission. If anybody would like to serve on that commission, please apply. We're in the process of seeing which members on all of our commissions want to continue to serve and where there's been openings. So I'm starting to get people's names that they would like to serve on a commission. So if anybody would like to serve on any of our commissions, please let myself, Village Manager Knight, or any of the trustees know, and they'll forward your name. So on that, thank you. Any other resident questions, comments? Seeing none, I would ask if there's any trustee comments. No word, yes. Oh, Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, President Kukler. First, just to comment on the Illinois Harbor Belt Rail Line. Brian, thanks for coming to discuss that tonight. You and I have had a few conversations about that intersection, and because of that, I've taken a look at all of the IHB crossings in LaGrange from 47th and East Avenue, which is, there's no crossing that exists. There's no sidewalks on either side anywhere. It's particularly terrible. And then you move on to Cossett, and then further up to, is it Lincoln, and then is it Shawmut on the north end of town. All four of their crossings are subpar, extremely. They either don't have crosswalks on both sides, or they're crumbling. And then I was scouring Google Maps and I hovered over to the next town north in LaGrange Park, and the IHB crossing there is gorgeous, up to date with all the things you'd expect from a safe crosswalk. So I would just ask that we, and I've shared this with the board, I'd ask that we take a very close look at asking them not only to do what is right at the Cossett intersection, but to do what is right at all of the rest and put that into their plans, because that's not okay. And all of the Burlington Northern crossings that go through town on the east-west are what an example of what it should look like, and that's not how it is over there. So in looking at that, it's more of a problem than just that one intersection. So I hope we can put some pressure on them to do what they should have done. And then secondly, I just have a quick quarry comment, comparatively anyway. Still working with some of our affected residents and neighbors on this issue of blasting. We hope to have our very valid concerns presented to the quarry soon, and would be reaching out to all of the affected towns and government organizations when we do that. Our Facebook group on this subject is continuing to grow, and that's exciting, and we get a lot of good information from different neighbors who offer their unique comments. And most recently, just the other day, there was a posting, and I won't give any names, but it was basically asked, if you've lived here a while, are you seeing any differences, and what are you seeing? And one of the first posters said he's been here 22 years in this area by the McCook Quarry, Hanson or Heidelberg as they're going to be calling themselves. Said it's dustier than any place I've ever seen. Blasting has gotten worse. Cracks in the ceiling have been repaired twice. I've never seen soil erosion and shifting in concrete as I see on the south end of Brookfield. House was built in 1957, so cracking cannot be due to the house settling unless blasting is moving the soil. It's increased a lot as the years have gone by. Another commenter from a 400 block of 7th has been here for 27 years. Said 23 of those, she was at home with her kids, and although their schedule was nuts until 2020, blasts seem to be the same frequency, but they feel stronger to me. And yes, the dust is out of control. You have to wonder what we're breathing in. And the majority of the comments are that the blasts have increased in intensity. Another, and I'll just leave this as the last one, another commenter said that 50 years ago on Deo near 47th Street, which is in Brookfield, blasts became noticeable. That's where she lives, and said that blasts became noticeable in 2019 with the start of underground mining. The intensity of all the blasts has increased steadily, as has the dust, cracks in foundation, driveway, and in walls and ceiling. The only positive note that she mentioned was that at least we know the approximate time of blasting, which is right around 2 o'clock, a little before and after. So I would only ask that people please continue to call the hotline when they feel these blasts or get dust in their yard or have issues with the gravel truck. That phone number is 866-934-3278. They're not going to do much about it. You might not even get a call back, but it will get these things on record. And as well, if you are affected, you can join the private Facebook group, once again, with the long name of Lyons Township Quarry Information / Underground Blasting and McCook Quarry, and I have these cards for you to grab if you'd like to after the meeting, and we hope to see folks joining that and sharing their concerns over what's happening to their homes. Thank you, President Kukler.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Not seeing any other trustee comments, we will next be meeting in 2 weeks on May 8th. At that time, we will be recognizing Trustee Kutinik for his great service on this board and welcoming a new trustee, Glenn Thompson, who's been at a lot of our meetings. So it should be an exciting meeting. You're all welcome to attend. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at, if I speak slowly, it'll be right at 9 o'clock. So a motion and a second.
I'll second. I'll motion.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, and that motion passes at 9 o'clock. Thank you.